my favorite summer sound. That would be the sound of the pickles that I just canned as the ball jar top seals itself. You know summer has arrived when you hear that sound. And if you've never canned before, that's part of what we're going to talk about today as I'm flying solo on this episode of Fostering Blooms. Welcome to Fostering Blooms, the podcast where we dig deep into gardening and all the ways it can enrich your home and life.
Together, we'll explore every aspect of gardening the organic way, keeping it simple, accessible, and fun.
Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting your hands in the dirt, we're here to share the tips and insights you need to grow something truly special. I'm Shannon Foster-Boleen.
And I'm Caitlin Blum, and we're two friends on a mission to cultivate beauty, creativity, and connection through everything we grow.
This is Fostering Blooms. Let me tell you, when I first started gardening, I didn't realize just how much food I would end up growing. I had no idea that 3 cucumber plants was going to create a mass of cucumbers that I was going to have a challenge in using. Of course, I was super excited at first. And then as the weeks went by, I was like, what am I going to do with all of this? Tomatoes were coming in faster than I could make pasta sauce, cucumbers piling up, beans by the handful. Let's not even get into zucchini because we all know how crazy that is. At first, I just started bringing the produce to work and giving it to friends and coworkers or leaving bags on neighbors' porches. But after a couple weeks into the summer of this massive produce production, basically, I feel like I was starting to hand it out to any random person that came to my house or walked by. Oh, you came to look at my HVAC? Would you like some beans or maybe some cucumbers? How about some cherry tomatoes? And you know what? I love sharing the bounty and even taking some of those produce items to a local organization that can distribute or use the fresh produce. But over time, I realized, you know what? I want to find ways to utilize what I'm growing for my family for as long as possible. There's something that feels really rewarding knowing that I may not have to buy a single jar of canned tomatoes this year, which actually happened in 2024 into 2025. I have not bought canned tomatoes in almost a year. And to know that in the future, I won't have to buy beans because I have a way to store shelling beans or green beans. Caitlin and I have both been going down some pretty deep rabbit holes this summer in particular about how to become even more sustainable in our own lives. And we're excited to share all of those things. But today, we're specifically going to talk about vegetables and how to utilize what you're growing, especially when you start to feel overwhelmed by your crops. Okay, let's break it down by those vegetables that start to overrun your garden and hopefully are producing like crazy for you, which would be cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, yellow squash, and green beans. I'm so grateful for the generosity of each of these plants. But like I said, it can start to feel really overwhelming and wasteful when you don't know what to do with what you're getting. So let's start with cucumbers. I started water bath canning several years ago. I have to tell you, once you get the hang of it, it's really not that hard. My first recommendation to you would be to get an electric water bath canner. It makes it so simple and so clear. Then your only focus needs to be on a good, safety-approved canning recipe. My recommendation to you is to use the Ball Canning Book. It's a classic. It has a ton of recipes in there. It's very easy to implement most of them. It's got every kind of vegetable as well as some jellies and other things that you might try. So I love canning pickles. It really is simple. Mainly, I started off with recipes to do sliced pickles. And since then, I've expanded into spears. I do bread and butter. I do dill. I've done gherkins. And it's really wonderful. I will also say I haven't bought pickles for a couple years now. And if you really want to mix it up, and that's what I'm doing this year, get a fermentation crock and you can do fermented sour pickles, which I absolutely love. Our local Jewish deli has an amazing provider locally who makes those, but I'm excited to try it for myself so that I can have those sour pickles anytime I want. Water bath canning for pickles is a great way to use them up. If you harvest every morning, that'll totally allow you to do the gherkin pickles. If you do wait a couple days, then usually that's a good size for a spear or a sliced pickle. Can't recommend this enough as a way to use up your cucumbers. They also make great gifts. I have several people every year that are dying for my pickles. So I'm sure you'll be able to give those away, whether it's for a holiday or just people in your life who are going to love them and want repeats. Now, if you don't feel comfortable canning, you don't have the space, you don't have the time, then you can just do quick refrigerator pickles. There's tons of recipes out there. It's great for a small batch, super easy to do. You probably could even do a few extras and give them to some friends. Of course, using them in your meals, like cucumber salads with red onions, which hopefully you've harvested earlier this year, a little bit of vinegar, keeps in the fridge for a few days. It's very easy to do. Tzatziki sauce or a yogurt dip with grated cucumbers and garlic and lemon. It's delicious and refreshing, and it definitely feels like summer. And then cucumber water is amazing. Just take a few slices, throw them in your water every day. You'll feel like you're at the spa. Don't you ever wonder, why don't I make this for myself when I go home from vacation? Well, you can. You can give yourself that experience, and you can even cool them or freeze them and put them on your eyes to depuff if you want to. I will say I typically don't freeze my cucumbers, but there are people out there who claim that it is good to freeze them and you can use them for things like cold soups or in a smoothie, anything where it's not a fresh cucumber needed situation. And if you are going to do that, you want to wash it really well, slice it up, put it on a baking tray with parchment paper, flash freeze it in the refrigerator so that when you put it in the sealed bag that they won't stick together. And that way you'll be able to take out as much as you want at a time. So there are some cucumber ideas for you. Now, tomatoes, another big producer. Like I just said, I love water bath canning my tomatoes. I have done them whole, I've done them crushed. I love not having to go to the store and buy any. And this year, I plan to put some roasted peppers in there with it as well. This is another use for that water bath canner. I will tell you, I'm always surprised how many tomatoes it takes to do a full canning bath of crushed or whole tomatoes. You look at that tomato harvest you just had and think, what am I going to do with 25 pounds of tomatoes? Well, I'll tell you, those 25 pounds will probably turn into like 6-pint jars of crushed tomatoes. You'll be surprised how quickly it goes. In my world, if you get a gift of canned tomatoes, then that means I especially love you because, quite frankly, I kind of hoard them a little bit because there's nothing like having your own canned tomatoes for tomato sauce in the winter. I refuse to eat tomatoes out of season because they just don't taste good. So you get that here. You can also can cherry tomatoes. You can do pickled cherry tomatoes. You can take your cherry tomatoes and make tomato jam. You can do sun-dried tomatoes. I did that last year and they freeze up excellent. You do just like I suggested with the cucumbers, where you flash freeze them individually and then put them in the bag and seal them. Also, you can just go ahead and make fresh tomato sauce, make a big batch of it, take a portion of it, put it in a bag or however you want to store it and freeze it. And then you'll have that ready to go for later on. Also, who doesn't love a good summer fresh chopped salsa? BLTs, you name it. Fresh tomatoes are fantastic during the season, but those are also some ways to preserve them. Next up, zucchini and yellow squash. We all know how much one zucchini plant can produce. Before the squash bugs invade, they really still get the job done. In fact, I just ran into my friend Lisa and her daughter Lexi yesterday, and they were telling me how much they enjoyed the zucchini bread they just made. That really is one of the things I'm going to recommend. It's delicious, it's moist, it's tender, and that's something that if you're going to give it away to friends or to an organization, people a lot of times know how to just dig into a loaf of bread more than they may know how to cook with zucchini. An interesting one is zucchini butter. It's technically not with butter, but you take grated zucchini and you cook it down really slow in olive oil and garlic until it becomes really rich and spreadable after it solidifies. You can freeze it, you can refrigerate it. I'm sure you'll find plenty of great recipes online for that. But what a unique idea. And then, of course, you can pickle it, just like everything else we talked about. And that is one thing with water bath canning. Whenever you're doing water bath canning, you're using some kind of acid in that, whether it's lemon juice or vinegar. So you can absolutely pickle zucchini. And then another fun one is zucchini noodles. I know you've seen those in the grocery store and they're not cheap. Take your zucchini, buy a spiralizer, which you can use on other things as well, flash blanch them, and then freeze them and use it for pasta substitutes. I love that idea. I haven't tried it yet, but I think it's a fantastic way to do that. I don't know about you, but I love some fresh green beans, salads, roasting them in olive oil and having them for side dishes. So, aside from cooking them, how do you store all the green beans you're getting? You can water bath can them and get that dilly bean flavor. We do that around these parts. I feel like that's super southern, but I love a good dill bean. At this point, you might be a little dilled out, or you may have run out of your fresh dill plants if you're growing them. But you can also pressure can these. And that's one thing I'm excited about doing this year. This will be my first year pressure canning. That's one reason I got the pressure canner because I want to be able to can my green beans and some of my shelling beans as well, like black beans. It's going to be great to have some dried black beans, but I also would love to have some canned black beans that are just a little more ready to go on some of those nights where don't have time to do the dried beans or forgot to soak them the night before. The other thing with green beans, they do freeze really well. Out of all these things, I think they freeze the best. You can trim them, blanch them in some boiling water, and then freeze them flat on trays so that you don't get them clumped together. And go ahead and store them in that Ziploc bag, or if you have a bag sealer, you can do it in that as well. Hopefully, these are some things that maybe you haven't heard before or will help you to take the leap of faith and jump into canning a little bit. I mean, honestly, I find it to be very relaxing. It's a very prescriptive process. You do A, you do B, you do C, put it in the canner, let it do its magic. And then all of a sudden, you have food for potentially a year for a family of two or three, depending on how much you've canned, of course. If nothing else, you have gifts to give people who wouldn't enjoy some tomatoes in the winter that you've taken the time to grow and make. A couple other tips for you as you start to get into this, make sure to label everything. Want to have dates so you make sure that you're using it in the appropriate time frame. And you can always just try things in small batches. I always do a couple test batches first. So just pickle one or two jars or freeze one or two trays of tomatoes first and see how it works. I know my sun-dried tomatoes came out amazing. I did them in my oven because I don't have a dehydrator, but I do have a dehydration setting on my oven. Or even if you don't have that, if it goes low enough to like 155, you can absolutely do them. Give it a whirl, see how they taste. It doesn't have to be a huge operation for it to work. I think that these little acts of kind of saving the season help remind you in the depths of winter why you're putting in the effort, why you're dealing with pests and different weather conditions and buying seeds and doing all these things. It will really bring you joy, I promise. Hopefully, you will take that leap of faith and try to implement some of these things and see how it works out. Lastly, I will say we're diving deep into a lot of things that will help us preserve and use the things we're growing, from making sauerkraut to sourdough bread to herbalism. There's no point in letting your harvest be underutilized. And once you understand how simple some of these things are, it will surprise you, or at least it surprised me that I hadn't done some of this stuff earlier. There's nothing more rewarding for a gardener to take something from a seed to a plant to something you harvest, eating it, storing the extra so that you can enjoy it even longer. It feels like this beautiful full cycle. And if you say to yourself, I don't have time to do all that, then I would encourage you to reach out to a local food bank or a local pantry that's servicing a community in need and share your food with others, because that feels so much better than just putting it in the compost bin. Until we talk next time, Caitlin and I are wishing you the absolute best with your summer gardening. Stay cool out there, keep your plants watered, Keep harvesting and let's go grow, baby. If you're up to your ears in zucchini and still pretending to like it raw, it might be time to hang out with gardeners who get it. If this episode made you smile, sparked an idea, or just made you feel a little less alone in your tomato avalanche, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. It helps other gardeners find us and keeps this growing little podcast blooming all season long. We appreciate you more than a perfectly ripe heirloom on toast. See you next time.